Hey guys, welcome back to another awesome episode. I have got with me Daniel, who won, and this got me so excited when I saw this. He won a ProQuest with Rhinar, which is like, yes! And I've been wanting to get a Rhinar Deck Tech down for a long time. And I know there's been some stuff before, but the second I knew that my World's Draft Pod man won with Rhinar, and we've been catching up slightly that you've won. I've been so excited to do it. So dude, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks to you. I'm really happy to be here, and trust me, I'm a big fan of this podcast, and I'm really happy to be here sharing time with you and with the community.
Oh no, dude, thank you so much. So what I want to do is kind of kick in really with the journey. We're going to go through some of the cards and why you've picked some of it. So just a little bit of the journey of your tournament, how that went. You know, how did your Swiss rounds go? Who did you play, etc., etc.
Oh yeah. First of all, there were 2 ProQuests on that weekend.
Yeah.
On the first one, it was on the Saturday. It was a almost 60 people tournament.
Ooh, okay.
I don't remember. I think it was 57. Pablo won with Solheim, and I made top 4 with Rhinar. I did a 6-0. Okay. I did a 6-0 on the Swiss, and then I did a 6-0 on the Swiss, and then I end my run on the top 4 against Fi, because I rolled a die. I have to take the risk, and the one, I lost my turn, and that's all.
That's it. Right.
Yeah, that's a classic brute, but yeah. And on my second day, I played a 32 people tournament.
Right.
Both tournaments hosted in Madrid. And yeah, my first tournament, my round was during the Swiss, Fi. I won. Right. I won at 80-6-0. Fi, all him, draw my, Rhinar, all him. Right. And top 8, I won a draw mine, and I lost to Fi.
Right.
And then the Sunday, I played against Das, Briar, all him. top 8, all him. Right. And top 4 and final, Icelander.
Okay. Right.
And I have to say that the deck performed really well.
I was going to say, you got some fantastic results. I mean,
yeah.
Also, go on.
Yeah. At the very beginning, when I conceived the deck, this is funny because I am a competitive player and I try to play the best decks. But for some reason, when Dynasty was released, I saw that Dash will be a really good deck, and Rhinar is my favorite deck, and I need something. I wanted to make something competitive with the deck. And it was funny because for some reason, Dash hasn't had that representation during the tournaments.
Yeah.
And Olheim Icelander is doing really well in the tournaments. And for some reason, I didn't did it on purpose, but the deck works really well against Olheim. Right. Yeah, that's I started playing it and practicing against Olheim and Icelander, and the deck performed really well. And during the tournament, I played against very few fights that are the worst matchup, basically. So it was fine. The field was really good for me.
Yeah, I was going to say the fact that you encountered, I think from what I've heard, 2 fights, or was there 3? 2. One of them was
2 fights.
2 fights.
2 fights.
One in the top 4, which obviously ended that event. But the one that you got in your first round as well was that. I don't want to say luck, but was it just did it kind of go in your favor, considering well, I know that you won, obviously it did go in your favor, but how do you sort of sort that out with someone so aggressive?
Yeah, the thing is that when you play against these kind of decks, for example, if you play a long game, you roll the scav skin many times. So maybe if you do like 5 or 6 rolls during a game, maybe you will have a 1, but you will have 2 or twice or 3 times the 4 plus. Yeah. You will get 2 actions or more. So you can just balance the non-action with the action, so you can manage to play that games those games. But when you're playing against Fi, maybe you will roll the die one or twice, and that's where the risk happens, because if you roll a 1, you are done.
Yeah.
If you roll a 4 plus, you can win the game. It's not that hard, but the problem is that
You gotta roll. You gotta roll
the destiny is on your die, and you have to
Okay.
roll the die and see what happens.
Okay, so in short, you got to roll the dice against Fi.
Yeah.
That's
So
it.
the thing is
game.
that on my first round, I played against Fi, and I rolled the die in the first round, and I got a 6. So I didn't have to take any risk because I have rolled the 6, so it's fine. And against my game on the top, I rolled a 2 on my first roll on the first round, because as I did a 6-0, the tiebreaker made me choose who goes first. I decided to go first.
Yeah.
I rolled the 2, and then during the game I had to roll the die again, and I did the 1. So that's all.
Oh, right. Okay, that's a good sort of idea about how your journey was with this deck. And now I want to go through this deck, right, and sort of break down why you've picked certain core cards, and also go through some of the sideboard stuff as well. There will be a link below in the video as well, so you can check that out. Did you do a sideboard guide on Fabry with it as well?
My problem is that I didn't do the sideboard guide because it was an update.
Right.
It was on the original list, but it was an update because I did some changes in the last minute.
Sure. Oh, okay.
So I can explain my sideboard decisions.
Yeah.
I can update the deck later, but yeah.
Yeah, no, not a problem. But the link will be below, and we'll go through the sideboard stuff. Right, let's crack on. We've got Rhinar, and we'll kick off with your main equipment. I know that below here, you do have the Manable Claws, Null and Hooden Gold Crushers. We'll go through them when we get down to the sideboard bit as well. But in general, I can see that your main pieces of equipment: Crown of Providence, Vandal Spring Tunic, Gambler's Gloves, Scab Skin Levers. Now that looks, apart from obviously Crown of Providence, that's just the improved version of Skullcap, let's be honest. But seems pretty classic, pretty much the Rhinar that we all know and love, with Gambler's Gloves, Scab Skin Levers, and Spring Tunic. What you wanted to delve in a little bit more about this equipment, why you slotted them in.
Yeah. When you're playing Rhinar, something that I like about this kind of heroes, it happened the same with Viserai, with Dash. You can change your play style depending on the matchups. So it's this kind of decks that have a big reward for the previous job you do after the game. No, before the game.
Yeah.
So in this case, for example, I think that Gambler Gloves go in almost every matchup. The only matchup I include the Skull Crushers that are on the bottom is against Fi.
Right.
The thing is that this arms equipment have 1 block, which is really relevant.
Yeah.
It's really relevant because if you're playing against Fi and he attacks with a Snatch or the 4 that removes 1 card, Mountain Anger.
Yeah.
If he attacks with Mountain Anger or a Snatch, that 1 block may be really relevant because blocking on a hit is a lot of value. I'm going to keep talking about value all the time during the video,
everyone.
because the value is quite relevant in the deck building construction. The other card that is really important in this build is a Romping Club.
Yeah.
In general, this is in general terms, when you want to spend your whole hand attacking, you want the claws, because what you want to do is to intimidate. No, not the Gambler Gloves. I mean, the Romping Club or the claws.
The claws. Yeah.
The claws. So the claws say for 2 at 2 cost, attack for 3. If you have this card as 6 more from your hand, it has to go again.
Yeah.
So this card is better. The more cards you have, the more attacks you can do.
Yeah.
So if you have cards with turns with 2 cards, 3 cards, or 1 card, Romping Club is a better weapon because at the cost of 2, it can attack for 4 or 5 if you have this card as 6+ attack this turn. So the other point that, under my view, makes Rhinar good deck is that the vast majority of the red attacks you're going to play during the game are a 2-cost attack.
Right.
You have the key cards are Bear Fangs, for
Yeah.
example. Bear Fangs is a good example. There's like a package of cards that doesn't block. That is Bear Fangs, Bullpin, and Wild Ride.
Yeah.
Those cards doesn't block, cost 2, and it had the effect of drawing and discarding a card. And if it has a 6+ attack, the card you discard, it has an additional effect. For example, in the case of Wild Ride, it's a card that enables a really valuable card, valuable play.
Yeah.
For example, let's say that you have Wild Ride, Blue Pitch, and 2 cards that block 3. And your opponent attacks, and you block with 2 cards. You block for 6, and you keep your 3 Pitch and your Wild Ride. So the play is that you play the Wild Ride Pitch in blue, you draw this card, Intimidate, go again, and then you can gain 1 resource and swing the Romping Club.
So the resource coming from Tunic.
Yeah. You get the resource from Tunic, and you swing for 5.
Yeah.
So at the end, that play was 6 Intimidate, plus 5, plus 6 block.
Yeah.
It's a play that worth 17, which is huge.
Yeah.
In the same way, you can do it with Bear Fangs, you can do it with Pulpin, and obviously you can do it at some point with Command and Conquer or with Swing Big.
Oh, so basically I can see that all of these from Bear Fangs, Command and Conquer, Pulping, Skull, Crack, which is obviously, another card that can be a resource, Swing Big, and Wild Ride, 2 cost, 2 for 6. That's your thing. Now, I'm probably, if I'm not disrupting your flow too much, looking at Massacre.
Yeah. So now the Rhinar deck has like 3 packages of cards. The cards you use to pitch, the cards you use to attack, and the cards you use to discard.
Right.
That's the reason why this deck has cards like Skullcrack, like Massacre, like the yellow pitch cards that go for 6 for 2 or 3 and do something in general.
Yeah.
Because you need a package of cards that you want to discard actively. And maybe you can use it in other situations. For example, when you use the Skullcrack, for example, Skullcrack says when you discard this card at random, you gain 1 resource.
Very good.
It's very good because the play I said before that is if you do Wild Ride and you discard the Skullcrack, you can swing the hammer for 5 without using the resource, the Tunic resource.
Yeah.
You know? Then you have the Swing Big play, then you have the Bear Fangs play. So the vast majority of the times when you want to do a valuable turn, what you want to do is to roll the Scabskins, because worst case, you pitch 3 for swing 6 or 8. If you are lucky and you get the +4 from the dice roll, you can swing with the attack and then swing with the club and do a big value.
Yeah. That's
when you're playing against decks like Icelander, for example, that's really funny because the way to make the 2 cost more valuable is that, for example, Icelander attack with an attack, Gundabul, for example.
Yeah.
And he goes for 8, and you block with 2 cards.
Yeah.
Then you pitch 3 and use, let's say, Swing Big, for example, and go for 8. If he used the arsenal, put 1 Frostbite, you avoid that Frostbite because you are not using any more actions during the turn. And you have 1 Flooring resource for the Winning Moon. At the end, your play is, for example, in this case, is 8+1 that you stop with the Arcane Barrier, and then 6. The value is ridiculous. It's 15 for doing nothing.
It's you've done the maths, but I remember when I was playing with against Icelander and stuff. I'm not very good at all the math stuff with it, but I always just knew that. Oh, so if I just come in with just 1 big hit, Icelander hates it because they're trying to disrupt flow. They're trying to get stuff in, but if you're just going to go have 6, have 8, you go done block. And I've still got some cards kicking about. Yeah, she despises having to deal with big numbers, 1 big swing, but no, that's so I love it. That's so cool. So that's one like sort of like way of playing, and that's I imagine a lot of this comes into effect. That is it. The meta that's kind of making Rhinar slotting particularly well, with the fact that
Yeah,
Oldham and Icelander are such a such a big force in this meta currently, that he's kind of really targeting them more than anything. Is that a fair way assessment?
yeah, and the reason and when you want to play against those decks, you don't need many slots on the deck, because at the end the slots you are spending on the sideboard to play those matchups are the claws and the null rune hood.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing I only need one Arcane Barrier, so that's the reason why I play in Null Rune Hood, because it was funny because a lot of people ask me about that, because there's
Yeah.
Skullhorn that has Arcane Barrier too. And people always were like, dude, you don't have that majestic. And it was, yeah, I have it, but I want the Gambler Gloves to play against Icelander, and I only need one Arcane Barrier, so.
That's that's okay. That is fascinating, and because when I obviously first did it, I was like, oh no, I'm gonna put in the null rune gloves and the skull horn. I really want to, so I can tell them you're not going to do any damage to me. But I might your sort of answer back is it's fine, because you're not coming back with value damage. Like, do you know what I mean? You're missing some of this equipment that is needed to push value and damage over the fact that you're just having some equipment that's going to stop damage, if that makes sense. Is that you're being too defensive?
Mhm.
Is that the right way of saying it?
Yeah, when I play against Icelander, what I try to do is just to keep the lives as high as possible. Because if you block with 2 cards 7 attack, for example, and you take 1 damage, and then you take 2 arcanes from the Winning Moon, at the end you're just losing 3 lives, which is fine, because when you are on the range of between 15 and 40, it's fine. Taking 3 damage is doable.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem about that. Then I go with Intimidates on the stuff, and he takes more damage than I do. So
No, that's fair. Now let's go through some of the yellows. Beast Within, obviously.
Yeah, Beast Within is in that package of cards that
you need to discard.
You want to discard. Yeah, you want to discard, and it's a card that can kill you.
Yeah.
But in general, it's a card that works really well, because the maths on the deck is that I'm running in general. Can you go to the sideboard?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, in general, what I include is 2 Reckless Swing, 1 Eye of Ophidia, and depending on the matchup, 3 Savage Beatdown or 3 Symbilos.
Right, okay.
So the numbers will be, I run 18 blues, 3 of them has 6 more, because it's the Worker Romp,
yeah,
and 3 Bloodrush below. So the numbers is that I run 18 cards that are not 6+,
right,
and the other 42 or 39, depending on the Symbilos, are 6+. So the numbers are really high. It's really difficult to make Beast Within take you more than 2 or 3 damage, or maybe or the Bear Fangs fail, or the Wild Ride, or the other cards.
Yeah.
It's quite hard.
Yeah.
I try to reduce the randomness to the minimum.
And just come in with just pure value. Although you'd be sad to know that one of my friends did play a Beast Within in a ProQuest. He lost the game because of Beast Within, and he had 6 health. Yeah, so he literally flipped over 6 defense reactions, one after another.
I remember it happened to me on a ProQuest. I was in the winning in, and it was a favorable matchup. And it was funny because I discarded the Beast Within, and I discarded 8 blues and a different reaction, and I lost. I was winning. It was so easy. That game was running so good for me, but for some reason I lost 9 lives and the blue.
Okay, so yeah. the Bloodrush Bellows, I think, are obviously one of the most obvious cards. You've got to slot into your deck. The value of that card is just insane. +2 damage for the entire turn, get rid of a 6-cost card, which is probably a card that you want to just discard anyway, and then draw 2 more cards. It's pretty nutty, especially with the claws.
And it's really good for many reasons. I mean, it may be obvious. It's obvious that this card is really good, but you have really good plays with this card. When you're playing with the club, for example, you can just keep 1 6+ attack in your hand and Bloodrush in your arsenal, for example. You can use the tonic resource, use the Bloodrush Bellow to intimidate, draw 2, and then swing the club for 7.
Yeah.
You will say, that's not a really good play, but at the end, you are using your tonic resource and 2 cards to swing for 7 an arsenal. So it's like 7 for 1, which is an intimidate.
Yeah.
What else can we cannot ask for more value here.
Yeah.
And then if you're running the class, obviously you can Bloodrush and do 5 attack, and another attack, and that's a big that's tons of damage. That's a lot of damage.
Yeah, absolutely. The pack call.
Yeah, the pack call is a card that secures those cards that are a draw discard. That engine, if you defend with the pack call, you can be almost 100% sure that you're going to hit a 6+. So you can try to prepare those plays with the Romping Club and the Wild Rise or the Pulpin, or maybe roll the die with the Bearfangs. It's quite easy. It's a 6+, it blocks for 3, it spits yellow. It's perfect. It's exactly what the decks need.
We got a new card from Dynasty, Reincarnate.
This is quite interesting because at the first sight I thought it will be out included in the deck, and at some point I discovered that it's absolutely crucial to play against Othon,
right?
Because he can fatigue you.
Yeah. This card is literally, what was the old card? Is it Drone of Brutality? It feels very much like, it's kind of like Drone of Brutality.
Yeah, it is. And when you're playing against Othon, and for example you use the Remembrance deck on the sideboard, you can use the Bloodrush Bellow, and then something that happened to me a lot in the past was I play the Remembrance and put back my Bloodrush Bellow in my deck, and it was awesome, but I didn't have 6+ attacks to this card. With this card, you have a way to secure that you're going to have those 6+ attacks on your deck at the end of the game. So when you're playing those matchups, you have to keep the Reincarnate on your deck. Try to not to block with the Reincarnate.
Yeah.
The same play we mentioned earlier, the pitch 1 swing big, for example. You can use the Reincarnate to pitch and do the big attack, and then keep the Reincarnate on the deck for the Remembrance with the Bloodrush Bellow.
Yeah.
To keep going.
That's really cool. I love seeing the newer cards being included rather than it being sidelines. Nice to see that that's in there. And to be fair, there's quite a few. Yeah, the Skull Crack. Well, in fact, there's quite a lot. Savage Swing. Why Savage? Is it because it's a 1?
Yeah. Basically. The thing is that you can put every card you want in this slot because you almost never use it.
Right.
To be fair, I used it on the tournament and it was crucial because I was playing against an Othon and the Intimidate was crucial, absolutely.
Okay, real.
So it will be a smashing instinct that for 3/6 Intimidate and it will be fine anyway. So wherever you want.
Whatever you want. And then we're going to move over to the blues. The Barrage and Beatdown blue again, and the Wrecker Romp blue just feels like, they're in there. They're caught. The fact that the blue block 3s and their secondary function of it being so good and obvious of why you want to put this in. Just one question I will ask is, why not yellows and reds?
Well, that's a really tricky question because it's really hard. It's a feeling that it's really hard to explain because the thing, what happens with Rhinar is that sometimes the Intimidate doesn't have the same value in every matchup. So when you're playing against Icelander, for example, and you do one intimidate is huge because you can intimidate the card they want to the card they want to use to block, which is fine. But intimidating 3 cards doesn't matter because you're going to intimidate a Wounded Bull and, and the card they want to pitch or the card they want to arsenal. So the second intimidate in general, what do is do in the context of Icelander, for example.
Yeah.
That card won't matter because they're going to use the arsenal and use the winning moon and doing nothing.
Right.
Intimidate in that case do nothing. But when you're playing, for example, against Olhim, you want as many intimidates as you can, because you want to do damage.
Yeah.
So when you're playing Baron Beatdown, the red and yellow version, what happens is that in some games the card is really good, and in other games the card is really bad. And at the end, it requires a lot of slots on your sideboard. So if you want to modulate what matchups do you want the Variant Beatdown or what matchups you don't want the Variant Beatdown, I think it requires too many slots on the deck.
Yeah. That's
also when you're playing, it happens to me a lot. I've done this question several times.
All right.
when you're attacking with a 6 attack.
Yeah.
The LSS designed this game really well because when you are doing one Variant Beatdown and you're attacking for 6 and your opponent blocks with 2 cards,
yeah,
Variant Beatdown did basically nothing. This an intimidate.
Yeah.
But when you're doing Variant Beatdown and then you're attacking with the claw, and your opponent blocked with 2 cards, it's like, oh, I spent 2 cards, but he spent 2 cards. That's a really good. I'm a really good spot. So as I wanted to focus my deck more on the Romping Club, it's more straightforward.
Yeah.
I do my attack and you have the response.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
I think that Variant Beatdown on red and yellow doesn't fit on that playstyle.
No, that's a really good explanation and rundown. If anyone was curious, Rekarom speaks for itself.
Perfect.
Blue,
please, please release a second.
We need more.
6 attack, block 3 of blue.
I wonder why it's taken them so long to make another one. Maybe it's hiddenly so broken, unreally broken. Maybe that's why. But who knows? I'll go through Sand Sketch and then I'll go for the next 2 spicy cards, which I think are really interesting. Sand Sketch Blend, 3 copies of it. Blue block 3, tutor card, very good. Unless there's anything more to explain about that.
This card is really underrated because at the end it works really, really, really well with the Romping Club. It's not that good on the claws build, but it works really well with the Romping Club because at the end you're spending 1 card in your hand. For example, you have 4 cards and you're spending 1 from the Sand Sketch plan and you discard. You have 3 remaining cards and you're going to play 1, pitch the other one, and then you can swing with the club. And that's not that bad because what happens with this deck is that sometimes you don't have a way to spend your full hand. So using Sand Sketch plan and maybe searching, there are targets that are really good for this card. You can use Peace Within, obviously, because you can draw extra cards. You can use the Skullcrack to gain 1 resource, and you can play my favorite card, that is the Shepherd's Feast.
Oh,
it's a 6/1. It's on the top side.
Oh.
It's the 5/1.
Oh yeah.
It's 6/1. 6/1. Discard a card, draw a card. This is so good because with a blue pitch you can swim for 6, then swim for 5 with the Romping Club, and arsenal, which is so good. And also you can combine it with Swim Big or Wild Ride if you're lucky with the draw. And that play has a lot of value. You have 1 extra intimidate, which may be really relevant against decks that, if you want to keep the full hand, intimidate. I think intimidate really matters.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's go.
It's situational, but it's a really good card.
Yeah, let's go through the next 2 cards here. I will move over to Lead the Charge. I wasn't expecting this. I kind of see it, but I wasn't expecting it.
This card is funny.
Okay.
It's quite funny to discuss about this card because people in general in Rhinar likes playing tier limb from limb.
Yes.
It's a card that costs 2. It's a blue card. When you play it, you draw on this card, and if
More
the card
damage.
has 6+, your next attack has the double damage.
Right,
So
yeah.
if you go for 6, that card will be for 12.
Right.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
It's fine, but it requires 2 blues and basically your full hand to work.
Yeah.
So then I started working with other cards, and I found that lead the chart is almost the same, but taking no risk. Because if you have 2 blues and 2 attacks, and you use lead the chart, do 1 attack pitching the blue, you have 1 extra action to swing the club or play the other card. So in general, it's like if you play the tier limb for limb and attack for 12, it's almost the same that swinging for 6 and swinging for 5 with the romping club. It's almost the same, but with less risk.
Okay. You see, my brain, and you're the pro, right? But my brain would have went, could I have made them yellow so that Savage Feast will work? Am I being greedy, boy?
Yeah. But what I want to do with the deck is to have as less 6s as I can.
Yeah.
I don't want to have any card but blue or Bloodrush Reload being a 6 attack, being a non-6 attack.
Yeah.
So I think let the chart use both slots. Allows me to use a full hand if I draw a hand with 2 blues.
Right.
It's almost the same what happens with This Round Is On Me. You can use your full hand if you have 2 blues, and it works really well. In the case of This Round Is On Me, it can fix your hand because you can draw 1 card and it's meta against Fi, it's meta against Dash. It can fix you 1 card because with 2 cost, you can still swing with the club. If you have 2 cards, or maybe with the Tunic, you can use the Tunic to use This Round Is On Me. If it's a red card, you can arsenal it. And if it's a blue or a yellow, you can swing with the hammer. It's not a great play, but it's something that buy you time in the game, buy you turns, which is fine. If you have a 3 pitch, a blue pitch, you pitch blue, you play This Round Is On Me, and then swing with the hammer and arsenal.
Yeah.
And it's a good play. It's fine. If you draw a 2-coster, you can play it.
And it blocks for 3.
It blocks for 3.
and that's another thing.
It blocks 3. Yes. It's blue. Yes. Perfect.
Perfect. Okay. So that is your core cards that you put in. You put this in all the matchups. Is there any times that you take some stuff out, or is this generally what you would put in every match?
I played these cards in almost every matchup, but Dash, I think Dash is the only matchup when I remove Pulping and Wild Ride, because both are cards that doesn't block.
Okay.
That don't block. So what you want to do when you're playing against Dash, I keep the Wild Ride because it's too good for not playing it.
Yeah.
But what you want to do is to play something like something between Fatigue and value game. So when you're playing against them, what you want to do is to draw the Arc Smash and destroy the Inducting Chambers.
Of course.
So during the rest of the game, what you're going to do basically is block and swing with the club, or block and swing with Swing Big, or Wild Ride with a Tunic, or something like that.
Yeah.
And you want the rest of the cards just block 3, just to do the game longer, because in the long game, if you break the Induction Chambers, the game is basically yours.
Yeah. No, that's a good shout. But in general, we'll go through the sideboard with all the other heroes. But in general, apart from Dash, which is Pulping and Wild Ride, you keep pretty much all cards. Right.
You remove those cards and include all cards that block 3. Basically, This Round Is On Me, it's in Below, Savage Beatdown, and Arc Smash.
Yeah. Let's go through the sideboard. Now. I tell you what, whenever I look at this sort of stuff, man, Arc Smash I get, just one pummel. Okay.
This is the best one in the deck.
Yeah.
It was funny because when we were going on the trip with my friends on the car, we were going to Madrid, and we stopped in a in a cafe to drink a coffee, and I had the 69 cards deck. And one of my friends said, "Oh, I have a red foil pummel. Do you want it?" I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
why not?" And I included it on my deck. And as soon as I arrived to the tournament, I removed the card I kept on my house. I left on my house, and I put the red pummel.
Right.
And for some reason, then I was thinking about that, and I thought that would be a really good idea, because when you're playing against Fi, it's a way to disrupt the turns and do the game longer. And when you're playing against Olhim, if you think that he's going to play into fatigue, Pummel can be a way to do damage, to do some extra damage, the one you need, in combination with the Reckless Swing. But you can do 4 with Pummel and 2 with Reckless Swing. That can close the game. So
when do you?
I'm
when
happy
do you
with
choose,
it. With the
with the
Pummel.
one. When do you just choose? But when do you put it in? When do you go like who would you put this in against? Are you quite strict with your with the amount of cards that are going in on certain heroes? If you're like, oh, it's Fi, I just put these cards in, or are you quite flexible depending on the mat, like this particular person's Fi, for example?
Yeah. At the end, when you're going to the top, you almost know the deck of your opponent. So I didn't use the pummel during the whole tournament.
Oh.
And at some point, I played against an Olhim, and it was, okay, I'm going to put the pummel this matchup. And I put the pummel, and it was relevant. So
right. Okay.
Yeah, it's just about fun. It's a fun story.
Right, fair enough. So
I like people asking me seriously, why are you running pummel? And it was like, yeah, I put it on my deck box. And if my opponent say I have pummel, maybe he's going to play all the game all around pummel.
I love it. I love it. Now let's go down the Savage Beatdown. You got 3 copies of that. That's in your sideboard. When do they come in? What's the purpose of this card? Who's it for?
This card is weird because I almost never play it. Right. It's really hard to play, but it fills an slot that you need against defensive decks, Solheim or maybe Bravo, because this card fills a slot that Alpha Rampage left. Alpha Rampage is a cost 3, go for 9, block for 3, discard a card.
I've just noticed that you don't have that Alpha Rampage in your deck. Oh,
it's a double intimidate, but this card is exactly the same.
Yeah.
With a requirement that is discarding a card of you have to discard a card after playing this card.
Yeah.
Before playing this card, sorry.
Yeah.
And the thing is that this goes for 12, which is big. It's some way to do damage, and if you combine it with a wild ride or something like that, it's 18. 18 with 2 intimidates is huge. It's a way to say, okay, this is my damage. You put it on the table and you say, this is 18 and 2 intimidates. Deal with it. The vast majority of the times you're going to discard it to pay a cost or to block for 3. And it also blocks for 3 if you want to fatigue dash. So
fair enough. It's the payoff is worthwhile putting it in if the stars align for you to make it work, and when it does, it is a lot. But if not, most of the time, it's a block 3. Most of the time,
you need an alignment to play it, but when you do it, it's awesome. It feels awesome.
It feels like it's replaced. It's basically just replaced Alpha Rampage. It's just if you're gonna throw in a big attack, you don't need them both because obviously, you're probably just rolling the dice too much. This is just a more heavier damage Alpha Rampage effect. Yeah,
but at the end, if I could run the Brian beatdowns on red and yellow, Alpha Rampage would make more sense. But what I want is the most brute card, literally, the one that bakes more damage, and the one that works only in a specific situation instead of a specific combination. Yeah. I think it's a different philosophy of the card. I think it's really cool. It's a design that it's quite different to the things that we have been playing until now, and I really like it.
Yeah, I like it too. The Sync Bellows, they're putting into when and who. Is that when you decide when you've got to be a bit more defensive, or?
Yeah, exactly. When you're playing against against Olhim, for example. It may be if you think that it's an aggressive deck, it may be really interesting to run the Symbilos. I run it in almost every Guardian matchup, especially against Bravo and against Olhim, depending on what do they do. But yeah, in general, the slot of Savage Beatdown or Sing Below depends on the matchup. For example, if you're playing against Icelander, you will never use Savage Beatdown because one single Frostbite can just make that card being useless.
Yeah.
So Sing Below, at the end, it's a block 4,
Yeah.
which is fine. And yeah, in general, I run it in the matchup side. I don't want to be aggressive. The matchups I want to do some tempo swings.
Yeah. Arc Smash is a dash card and a block 3. Yeah. Is there anything else other than dash you put it in?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm spending 3 slots on my deck for almost auto win a matchup, so it's worth it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Would you ever put it in? I know that this video is coming out after the ban and restricted announcement, but did you ever put this in when you were up against Icelander when she put in the
God, spending 2 cards to break an amulet is worth that.
Hey, look, I'm
the
just
amulet just discarding 1 card. So
I knew it was a bad idea. I just thought I'd ask.
But it blocks for 3. It's not that bad. It's not that bad.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a yellow pitch. And the Remembrance. When and why is that coming in?
Remembrance is there for those matchups that you think that they can fatigue you.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, it's there for Olhim, and it's a card that it's a bit tricky in this class because Rhinar at the end has a lot of draw engine mechanics. Because Bloodrush Bellow allows you to draw 2 cards, Wild Ride, Pulping, Bear Fangs, draw 1, discard 1. You have many ways to do the deck run faster and go to the pitch stack. You can go to the pitch stack faster than other decks. So if you draw the Remembrance at the beginning of the game, you can pitch it. If you draw the Remembrance at the end of the game, it's perfect. At the end of the cycle, it's perfect because you can fill your deck with the stronger cards you have. But it's necessary for Olhim, in my opinion, because I think many people don't think about this, but at the end, Rhinar requires 2 cards in the vast majority of the cases to attack. So it's not that hard to fatigue Rhinar. So Remembrance is a way to prepare your second cycle and having a really strong second cycle, because that's the reason why I run the Claws in this matchup instead of the Romping Club, because when I'm on the second cycle and I do the Remembrance and put the Bloodrush Below back on my deck, it's a really easy way to push damage and not lose the tempo, because you can do the Bloodrush. Even in that cases, doing Bloodrush and only attacking with the Claws and your opponent do the ice reaction or use the shield to put 1 frostbite, it really worth it because he's losing a lot of tempo doing that. And maybe on the first cycle you can use that cards to push, and then you can use the Remembrance, which is one of the keys to beat Olhim, to put those cards back in your deck. Also, if your deck has like 20 cards or something like that on the second cycle, because you spend a lot of cards, something between 20 and 30, it's quite easy to draw the Bloodrush Below back because you are drawing 6 or 7 cards per turn. So you are almost drawing 1/3 of your deck or 1/4 of your deck in every turn. So it's quite easy to do one intimidate, to chain 1 intimidate with Bloodrush and try to end the game.
Yeah.
With the pummel, with the reckless swing.
Oh, the pummel, that 1 pummel. We're going to move on to that's all you've got, the defense reaction. I'm going to be the guess here and say this is the fight card.
Yeah, it's absolutely a fight card and a dash card, because at the end against dash you can block the pistol and draw 1 card, which is huge.
What about Rune Blades and stuff like that with the Rosetta Thorns? Is that?
I don't think I want to sacrifice the consistency of the deck with removing 6+ attacks. So I believe I will play without the That's All You Got.
Yeah.
I will play with the blues, and depending on the matchup, if I play against Viscera, I would play Savage Beatdown, and against Rhinar, I don't know if That's All You Got is better than Below, because at the end with Below you can block a trigger of Embodiment of Earth, which may be really relevant. So I don't really know what to do. I think I will play the Below, and obviously against Runeblaze I wouldn't play Arcane Barrier. I will go just all in and try to finish the game as fast as I can.
You're a brave man. Now, we're going to move over to the Eye of Ophidia. And do you need this card?
No, but I spent almost 300 euros on the card, and I want to use it.
You want to use it, yeah. But so, but you don't need an Eye of Ophidia because
nah,
I'm just saying it. I don't own one either. I know. So what?
Yeah.
What did it do for you though?
No, the card is good because, as in the same way that the pack allows you to know what do you have on the top of your deck to not fail the draw this card engine. Eye of Ophidia allows you to prepare that, and also helps you to go to your pitch stack faster because you can put the cards on the bottom of your deck. So it's an advantage at some points, but sometimes the no blocking malus of the card can cost you the game. So I don't think there is a big difference about using Eye of Ophidia or another copy of Reckless Swing or another blue that blocks 3. I think the card is just a little bit. It's the 1% to jump from the 99 to the 100%, but I don't think it's necessary.
No. And then Reckless Swing. Reckless Swing is, it's how everybody knows usually how Rhinar tends to close the game out, as they say, because you can't go within 2 HP range of him, otherwise, 1 HP range now because Oasis Respite is now real. Well, that's changed things a little bit. But yeah, Reckless Swing is just pretty sure it's obvious why you want to put it in, but explain why.
This is way to end the game. So
yeah, I was right.
I mean, you pitch it, and at the end of the game with the pitch stack, you draw it back, and your opponent is at 3 or 4, and he has to play all the game around the Reckless Swing. So it helps a lot on the end game.
Yeah.
Because he cannot take some damage, and he tends to overblock and things like that. At the end, the card has a good value because it blocks for 4, and it deals 2 damage for 2 cards. So at the end, even if you want to play it in the middle of the game, the value of the card is cool because it's trading 6 for 2 cards.
So why
fine.
So why are they in the sideboard?
Excuse me?
So why are they in the sideboard?
Are they in the sideboard because when I made the deck, I wanted to play only 15 blues.
Right.
Then I add the this round is on me, and many people is asking me why this run is on me is out of the deck. So I moved this run is on me into the deck because I run it in almost every matchup, and I put the Eye of Ophidia and the Reckless Swing on the sideboard because I played only against. I remove it against Dash and those matchups where I don't want to block.
Right.
So I put it on the sideboard, but perfectly. I mean, it's more being struck. To be fair, Eye of Ophidia and Reckless Swing should go in the main deck. So
right. Okay. Sure. So you would leave them in the main deck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Technically, the main deck is like 57 cards.
Okay. And then we'll go. Nullrune Hood is your one piece of Arcane Barrier that you've got. Put that in. You don't put that in against Runeblades, though. That's you just go ham. But this is basically Wizard. Put that in for the Wizards.
If I face a wizard, it's the same way that all him face a Rhinar, you know? It's we're in the round 5. What the hell is a Rhinar doing here?
Yeah.
Will be the same with Kano. If I face Kano on the first or second round, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
If I face him on the 5th round, I'm extremely unlucky, or that guy deserves winning the tournament.
Right. Fair enough.
So yeah, I concede that matchup.
Oh,
I
okay.
would, if I will be worried about that matchup, I would run Oasis Respite or something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's necessary. At the end, this is a deck made for a meta call for a specific tournament that it was Madrid, because I knew there will be not that many fights and no Ganos. So
yeah. Okay. The Skull Crushers are, like you've explained, to do with Phi. When do you swap in the claws over the hammer?
I run the class. I run the class against all him.
Yeah.
Because I need to push damage with the Bloodrush, Bellow, and the Remembrance, as I explained.
Yeah.
And against a mirror Rhinar.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Because in a mirror, it happens sometimes that he intimidates your hand and you need to do something with your full hand. So I discovered that running claws is better than running the romping club. So it was funny because it was playing with a friend who was trying Rhinar, and we played together, and he was playing the claws and I was playing the romping club, and he didn't have even the majestics, and he almost won me because of the mandible claws. I was okay, this is really good for the mirror.
Yeah.
And it actually worked, because I played a mirror on the tournament, and the mandible claw were were really good.
Oh, awesome. That's...
I drew 3 Bloodrush and my opponent didn't, so I played better.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's it. Now you said we'll end it on this point. So we've had a ban and restricted announcement. I know it's probably a little bit too early to tell, but is there anything about this deck that you would, if Golden was to sit back a little bit and Vi and Dash and Raya were starting to become more prevalent, is there anything in this deck that you would potentially change around, or would it kind of stay as it is and it's probably not a good time for him? I don't know. What's your thoughts? If you had to go to your ProQuest with this deck, would you be worried?
Mm-hmm. I think the deck. I think in the short term, many people will play Dash, Fi, and Icelander, and I think Dash and Icelander are really good matchups for Rhinar. So depending on the field, if I think that many people will play Fi, I wouldn't play this deck. But if I think that many people is going to play maybe a lower tier decks or this or Icelander or Dash, I will play this deck.
Oh, okay. Sure. Okay, cool.
I will do it. So depending on what people do on the meta, I will keep playing this kind of decks, or I will change to Icelander or Dash or wherever.
Yeah, no problem. Awesome. We made it. Thank you so much, Daniel. Is there anything that you want to add in, or something that we may have missed out, or do any shout outs before we go?
I want to thank to the Spanish community. Everybody was really warming with me for playing Rhinar, so I really appreciate it. So thanks to everyone, and especially to my local players that helped me a lot with the testing of the deck, and my team obviously with the Sunflower Samurais. Yeah. Thanks to everyone, to everyone who helped to make this deck work, and yeah, that's all.
Oh, brilliant! All right, thank you so much. Link is below. It'll get the sideboard options put in and everything. But go play this at your local armory or Tana show or whatever, and have fun. Thank you so much, everyone.